Okay. Dr. Chong, are you there? Abraham? Is he there already? No? Oh. Okay. Okay. So, Veldim, you can lead the opening prayer.
So I invite everyone to pray with me. Let us put ourselves in the presence of God, in the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord, for your guidance and love. Thank you for this opportunity to present my thesis. Thank you for the great generosity of panelists who are here to guide me further in this study. May this work be relevant and useful. I offer it to you. Amen. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Veldim. Welcome to the thesis defense of Brother Veldim Bero Guterres. He is a candidate to the degree AB Philosophy. The title of his thesis is An Evaluation of Education System in East Timor in the Light of John Dewey's Philosophy of Education. The advisor is Dr. Abraham Chong. The principal critic is Professor Blaise Ringor, and the chair is yours truly, and also the second critic. Veldim, you can start your presentation now.
All right, thank you for that. So once again, good morning, fathers here and brothers, and also the supporters brothers from via Google Meet. And my title is An Evaluation of Education System in East Timor in the Light of John Dewey's Philosophy of Education. The background of the study. East Timor is one of the youngest countries in the world. It has been independent from Indonesia since 2002. East Timor tries to recover itself and build up several factors to stay stable and use the basic structure of the common good to maintain the peace and security for the young nation. However, East Timor is still faced with great struggles that affect the Timorese people, especially in the area of education. Education is a positive endpoint to developing a strong country. To meet the demands of people, East Timor education system must improve. The National Education and Strategic Planning established the foundation for all Timorese people to have access to high quality education. Hence, the researcher's major goal is to assess East Timor's educational system in the light of John Dewey's philosophy of education. The researcher was motivated to create the report after witnessing firsthand how the educational system in his nation is evolving toward greater education. Therefore, the researcher intends to contribute this work to his countrymen with a strong desire to pursue what comes to mind as to how the education system will improve and the state of education will improve. Indeed, education is a crucial ingredient in social and moral development. Therefore, we need to better in appropriating programs toward education practices in the classroom and outside setting. This is so to enable students to be creative as they progress in their studies. It will help everyone achieve a good life and reach his or her goals. A statement of the problem. The main purpose of the researcher in the study is to evaluate the education system in East Timor in the light of John Dewey's philosophy of education. However, he came up with the three sub-questions. The first questions, What's the current education system in East Timor, and how does it promote the need, knowledge, skills, and attitudes for students, success, and lifelong learning? Second, what is the role of education in the light of John Dewey's philosophy of education as applied to the current educational systems in East Timor? Third, what aspect of elements of educational system in East Timor can promote a better students' learning experience and holistic educational systems? Objectives of the studies. Basically, the main purpose or objective of this researcher is to evaluate the current education system in East Timor, to explain the role of education in the light of John Dewey's philosophy of education, to propose alternatives that would further enhance positive elements or aspects of the current education system in East Timor. Conceptual framework. The researcher will demonstrate the notion and ends of education in the conceptual framework, as well as how it will culminate in a holistic learning process paradigm. The researcher is interested in learning more about the implication of existing schooling in East Timor in order to reach a higher educational level. A comprehensive learning process or paradigm results from an emphasis on the ends of education. This framework will guide him toward the purpose of study, which is to examine the current education practices of East Timor. However, there are 5 layers shown above, which show and summarize the statement of the problem on how John Dewey's philosophy of education helps evaluate the current education practices of East Timor. First, the first layer above is about the concept education, which is the researcher will come up as an introduction for his thesis, and it will discuss in chapter 1. Second, the picture with black and white color presents John Dewey's philosophy of education. The discussion will focus exclusively on the philosophy of John Dewey, and it will be discussed in chapter 3. Third, the picture from the right side will present current education practices of East Timor, which will be discussed in the chapter 2 of this study. Fourth, the last picture in the lower part will present the whole purpose of this thesis as a holistic education learning or paradigm. The researcher will discuss in the chapter 5 as the ultimate purpose which education of East Timor shall be. Fifth, the arrow with the blue color connects concept to another concept. The arrow from the right side pointed down a connection of concept of education to current education system of East Timor. The arrow from the left side is connection between concept education to John Dewey's notion of education. The lower arrow from the right side pointed the connection of current education system of East Timor to holistic education learning process or paradigm. The lower left arrow as connection of John Dewey's notion of education and holistic education. The middle arrow with vice versa will present the similarities and dissimilarities between John Dewey's notion of education and current education practice in East Timor. Chapter 2, Education System of East Timor. Current national curriculum or curriculum after independence. East Timor national curriculum has been modified since 2013, in addition to some part of the previous curriculum of the Indonesian educational system. East Timor government implemented the new national curriculum using the set of values, which was the basis of the organization of teaching and evaluation of students' performance. The national curriculum, based on the new education, was implemented for the movement of the essential ingredients of the curriculum, such as what teachers will teach, how they will teach it, how long they will spend doing it, and how they will know if they have been successful. And this curriculum is to focus the preschools and the first 6 years of primary schools. Current education system. A good educational system provides a path to change the lives of children and gives them a better future. Is the more educational system over a period of time and planning developed into a democratic and pluralistic method. It helps improve the quality of education of students as today are given the freedom to elaborate their thoughts and opinions to be more effective in their personal lives, aspirations, and the individual life projects. Overall, the essential part of the educational system guarantees freedoms to learn and to recognize the value of personality. Therefore, it is intended to attain quality education and guarantees to respect the principle of freedom to learn and teach. Tertiary education. The Eastmore educational systems assumes that the person with 17 years of age and older, after accomplishing the lower levels of education, could access the tertiary education. Every year, the people who access the tertiary education increase. Teacher professional development training. The ongoing professional training for teachers aims to give venue for educators to be more competent and effective in their fields of expertise. The East Timor government and the Portugal government have a collaboration to train qualified teachers for special training and skills development. Every year, the Timorese, a number of qualified educators, are sent into Portugal for some additional training program to be taken there. With the cooperation of Universidade de Aveiro, or the University of Aveiro, and the government of East Timor, they train educators. Teaching strategies created a method of teaching and systematization of contents to teach. A social and moral function of education. A concrete contribution of good education to the society in the society's moral ascendancy. Therefore, education functioning among society, despite by the national education strategy planning, as education relevance among East Timor society in order for them to acknowledge for their future life. Chapter 3, John Dewey's Philosophy of Education. John Dewey, known as one of the greatest American philosophers and educators, his ideas and works influenced many educators, especially among the oldest nation, school reforms models. And he was born on October 20, 1859 in America. And he died on June 1, 1952, also in America. And he was studied at the University of Vermont and influenced by William James and Jean Jacques. John Dewey's notion of education. Education is very important whichever part of the world we go. John Dewey believed that education could change the life of people because through education comes with stimulation of the people's power to do better in life. Through education, everyone is able to gain knowledge. John Dewey states that the value which students or learners have is reflects the process of education. Therefore, education brought about good value to people and students in enabling them to be creative to achieve the better future of their life. John Dewey believes that education is to enable individuals to continue their education. John Dewey views of a school curriculum. The curriculum is the pillar of education that develops the mindset of students with a manner of creativity in the classroom. When schools have a good curriculum, they will create more productive students. The role of the teachers according to John Dewey. Teachers' role is to motivate and train the students to gain knowledge based on their creativity, guided by the school curriculum. The researcher, the teacher shall accomplish this aim with qualified method, engagement, and cooperation in the classroom. John Dewey argues that the main concern of the teachers is not matter on the subject. They are going to teach about the skills and contribution that they have. It will enable them to express in the classroom and transform the students. Progressive education according to John Dewey. Education is not just to learn, but education creates a good quality of life. John Dewey claims education is life, not preparation for life. To attain progressive education, we must construct good quality of teaching and engage the process of teaching and learning between social sharing, helping work together in the classroom. Progressive education is an idea that education helps develop a better world. Or for education to be truly progressive, it must engage in social learning experiences that aims to provide appropriate lessons to students. Chapter 4, a critique of East Timor educational system in the light of John Dewey's philosophy of education. Education system in East Timor is mostly based on backing system method, where the teacher is resolvers of knowledge and transmit the same knowledge into students, meant for them to memorize and reproduce them the same when asked to do so. During examinations, the researcher is the of knowledge transmission. This backing method consists of two crucial points and have its advantage and disadvantage. The posting methods would be an effective way to improve how teachers teach and develop teaching methods that get learners gain interest in what they learn and how they learn. Of course, those at lower levels need guidance of teachers, but as they go further, they can be left to experience on different ways of learning through projects, etc., with guidance of teachers as facilitators of learning process. Analyzing the gap between current educational practices in East Timor and John Dewey's notion of education, one can observe the following differences in focus. As East Timor's current education system and practice is to train students in mostly in knowledge acquisition, build their students' character and personality, teach students to learn through memorization and recitation techniques through backing method. Students are prepared to pass the exams and get good results. Encourage higher level of competitiveness among students. While the other side, according to the base education system and practice, is to train students both knowledge and acquisitions in actual practice, improve learning and self-respect and self-esteem, but teach students to learn social literacy and emotional literacy through problem-posing methods for enhanced interactive learning. Students are prepared for lifelong learning, for life skills that ensure long-term success. Encourage students to engage into creative works, activities that bring about admiration and success in life. Conclusions, entitled as an evaluation of education system in East Timor in the light of John Dewey's philosophy of education, this thesis attempts to give a better understanding of the education system in East Timor as an evaluation through Dewey's philosophy of education. The researcher recommends this thesis toward a holistic approach to the educational learning process or paradigm in order to help people, especially in their learning as students, teachers, and lay people, better appreciate the deeper meaning of education and what it calls for people's lives, especially the Timor students and government. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Veldim. We shall now listen to Professor Blaze's critical evaluation of your thesis.
All right.
Okay. So first of all, thank you, brother, for this effort. I appreciate how you did in the. I appreciate whatever you did in this work, because I know how it is difficult for you to actually write something that brings together the East and the West. And this is, of course, a good attempt. However, there are points which must be improved. Okay? Especially here in the statement of the problem, you said here that the main purpose of the researcher in this study is to evaluate the education system in East Timor in the light of John Dewey's philosophy of education. Now, it appears to me that you are using John Dewey's philosophy of education as a standard in order to evaluate East Timor, which you think is something that is inferior. And I think that is unfair to the educational system of the country that you are criticizing, because they hail from different contexts, they have different cultural backgrounds, and therefore they do suggest things that may fit well to the citizens. Okay? Now, kindly enlighten me if that is really the purpose of this research.
So, what the researcher intention in this thesis that even we are like see as what I said that the Western system in be applied to the system of education system as an evaluation. Actually, in this main purpose here is to like the vice because in East Timor context they more on the memorization. That's why the researcher intention is to apply the gender-based notion that it means that the teacher and education must be dialogue conversational, like me teach and listen, and while students express, teacher are listening. That's what I understand.
Okay. So you want the interplay of complementarity as also mentioned in your conclusion. But there is a contrasting point when it comes to your title and in your chapter 4 as well. Let me give you the reason why. In your title, you said here that your intention is to have an evaluation of education system in East Timor in light of John Dewey's philosophy of education. But then in your chapter 4, which is a crucial part because it should answer your main problem and justify the title of your work, you said here, this is a critique of East Timor's educational system in light of Dewey's philosophy of education. So which is which? Are you evaluating it or are you criticizing it?
All right, see, actually, regarding the title is an evaluation of education system, but in the chapter 4, it also should be an evaluation, but they may keep revising it. I hope I will talk with my advisor. We will collaborate about that.
Okay, in the same chapter, chapter 4, you said here that in East Timor, the educational system of pedagogy, just like what you were saying earlier, seems to be a mimicry, wherein the teacher will tell you something, will teach you something, and you have to reiterate what the teacher is trying to tell you. And also that whatever knowledge is given to you must be received passively. Now, I'm just wondering if that is really the case.
All right, sir.
Because you said here that the students should memorize what the teacher would teach them.
All right, sir.
Is memorization not also part of John Dewey's educational system?
No, sir. Actually, like this. So, in the method of education system in East Timor, they focus on the memorization. So, means that a student should memorize the lesson before the exam. So, when the way they pass the exam, they should memorize the lesson that teach by teachers. That's why in this intention of the researcher, it is like a combination of the notion of John Dewey's notion means that even you can memorize, but the learning is not only the memorization. It should be dialectical. Like we have to be more creative in the classroom. Not only the students not only listen to the teacher, but they have to express also their activity, their creativity as students, and the teacher also have to be listening to them also.
Okay. You also said here that with regards to John Dewey, Okay. You said that for John Dewey, there must be a progressive learning, and that there must a form of reward to help students achieve something, to give them some sort of motivation to achieve higher ranking, higher achievements. Do you think it is something good or something bad?
It is good, sir. Because, for instance, we develop the students' skills. It's not only just to like this over or like we just elaborate what we know through our experiences, but we have to create classroom alive. How can the students can be more creative? We have to adapt the method with the more creativity in the classroom. So this means we can make an activity for students pair by pair. They can collaborate with each other, sharing their experience with each other, and also we can also listen to them and gain what they want to learn in this classroom. That's why for me it's relevant also.
Okay. What is the limitation to that?
Sorry, come again, sir.
Are there no any limitations to that process of education in John Dewey's philosophy of education? It's
No,
totally good.
the actually this is the different perspective also because for the researcher it's not means that it's totally correct or totally wrong, but the way the researcher intends in this or in this paper is how can we apply that because the researcher means that it's good for students. That's
So,
why this not means that it's totally good, sir.
so I think
But it's good for
that is the problem with your work. You do not recognize the limitations of the progressive education according to John Dewey. First, what is the age bracket of its applicability? Will you apply it to a college student, for instance? Will you apply it to a senior high school student, for instance? Because, educational theories have their own limitations. And I think John Dewey's notion of progressive education is something that is regressive than progressive. In what sense? For instance, you are still a child and you are imbibed with an idea that whatever you do should have a reward. Now, as you go along with your life, you would always think that whatever I do for the good should have a return, should have a reward. So at the end of the day, there must be some qualifications. There must be some criticisms as well. And that will make this work far greater than what it is right now if you will include that criticism. Because that is the problem of today's educational system. Right? We base the quality on rankings. We base the quality on grades. For instance, you want to achieve a specific grade to this subject. You are being drowned down and being obsessed to the highest grade possible that you can achieve. To the point that it will push you to do some cheating, which is not good. As you see, there are drawbacks when it comes to this kind of educational theory. It is not totally good. Rather, there are limitations which are inherent to it. Okay?
all right, sir.
Now, how can you offer something that is American, given that John Dewey is an American educator,
All right,
to
sir.
someone who is in East Timor?
All right, sir. Actually,
Since the cultural background and the cultural context are different, okay,
Alright.
and the policies involving educational progress in US is highly different in East Timor, and that's for sure.
all right, sir. Actually, like this, sir. The researcher intends to apply the education system or done the base. It is like an evaluation for education system is not to adapt the culture, all the things. Of course, we are still, East Timor still living with their culture, their habits, their gestures, but we are learning, for instance, students learn from others also, right? So the systems always apply to improve with the global competitive. That's why we are not to get all the ideas from the Western to the East Timor system, but we get which is important to develop the system of East Timor.
Okay. Because what I am thinking here is that East Timor's notion of education and John Dewey's notion of education can stand together. It just it is just that they have to complement each other on some levels, not entirely, because again, there is no perfect system of education other than, of course, being someone who is really focused on the person himself or herself. Okay, and because that is the problem with some educational theories right now. We miss the person, right? Because we want our school to have this specific quality, this specific ranking. We tend to miss the person, how the person grows. Okay?
All right.
And that is a problem in John Dewey's notion of education. And also, I saw here things that are talking about education itself, but not philosophy entirely. Whenever you talk about education in John Dewey, it does not necessarily mean that it is already an educational philosophy. You have to start from the roots. Okay? You have to dedicate a specific portion of a philosophical route that would lead you to the educational theory of John Dewey. You cannot just simply go there directly and say that this is the educational philosophy of John Dewey. But where did it originate? Okay?
All right, sir.
That's the thing that you should clarify in here.
Thank you, sir.
Otherwise, it's just a mere theory that has no roots. Okay? So, that's for me. I leave the floor to Father right now, to Father Sam.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so it's my turn. But I would like to clarify a few things first before I proceed. No, these clarifications are drawn from the questions asked by Professor Ringor. No? First of all, what is now the medium of instruction in East Timor? The official medium of instruction, the language used in classes.
All right, Father. Actually, in East Timor, there are only two national language, which are Portuguese and Teton language. However, there still struggle with the students because they, uh, more or less, they are not really aware of the Portuguese. So the teachers has to use the Teton language to teach, to translate the Portuguese into Teton, so that in order for students to understand the lessons. However, it's not only the city, but the rural areas, they also still have the mother tongue. They still have the mother tongue. Somehow they are not really understand the Portuguese, even the Teton. So they have to use the mother tongue to explain the lessons to them for in order to understand the lessons.
But Portuguese is a
Portuguese.
Western language, right?
Yes,
It's not an Asian language. It's not an Eastern language, right?
yes.
Now, the strategic development plan, education plan, no? How do you call it?
The development strategic.
The strategic development plan, something like that, no?
Yes, Father.
Uh, who prepared this?
Actually, this is not the individual to prepare that, but this is the ministers of education. However, they are not only just prepare that, but then they have to be, when they accumulate all the ideas in the outline of the programs, they have to be approved by the government. And when the government's not approved, they will not establish the programs.
Is it influenced by this Portuguese university that you mentioned in your thesis?
Yes, Father, this is not really, the system is not influenced by the Portuguese. However, the government of East Timor, they collaborate with the government of Portugal. This is the University of Aveiro. This means that every month they transfer Timorese educators. They transfer to the Portugal to train to gain some skills in Portugal.
So it's not purely East Timorese, right? It is influenced by the Portuguese educational system.
Yes,
Can you
yes.
say that?
Yes, the
Yes.
method.
Now, are there elements in the educational system in East Timor that you can say are directly taken from the East Timorese culture?
This is actually the researchers knowing not really aware of that history, actually. But what researcher knows about that education system of East Timor, they just grow up from the Portuguese colonization in Indonesian. So East Timor just to reinforce that system. Somehow in the August in 2013, just starting of the system, new system, but they still accumulate, they still get some parts of that colonization system.
Yeah, if you really want your thesis to be of help in East Timor, you should take this into consideration. I was there, when I think they were preparing the the new educational system in East Timor. I had a series of meeting with the religious, and you know that the religious have schools there, no? And so this is one of the talking points actually in one of our meetings, no? Because the Catholic Church in East Timor is very influential, no? Because East Timor is a Catholic country,
Yes.
and the bishop wanted to put up a Catholic university. And so he was asking the help of the religious. So I think this is really one of the things perhaps your thesis can really help, no? If you really take it seriously.
All right.
Okay, I like the topic actually because it's very relevant and very important, no? In the present context of East Timor, but it's the educational system in East Timor, like in the Philippines, is Western. Yeah, because you see that the teachers are trained by Portuguese, and in fact, it is still part of the plan, the strategic plan, is the intervention of the Portuguese.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, my critical observation, no, this is to improve your thesis, no?
All right, Father.
You lack definition of terms.
Yes, Father. This is what I was thinking also when the rebound. I was realized that I was lacking that. Actually, I'm not here to explain my reason. This is absolutely my mistake. However, I have a copy here for them.
Yeah, but you see, that's why there is a little bit of confusion in your thesis. No, Professor Ringor asked you about evaluation, no? Because you did not define evaluation. Had you defined it, then you could have followed your definition in the writing or developing your thesis. But you did not define it. So what is evaluation here? Evaluation is not simply analysis, right?
Yes, Father.
Okay, the education system, you also have to define education system because as I will point out later, you did not evaluate the education system. You evaluate only one part of the education system, which is the implementation part. And then, well, usually, technically in the thesis, in the definition of terms, you have to define every term you have in your title. So East Timor, you have to define that also, no? What do you mean by East Timor? Because if East Timor, in your definition, you will put there, for example, that it was under the Portuguese regime for many years, that makes a difference. I mean, that will help the reader to understand your thesis,
All
right?
right.
And then the term "in the light of." What do you mean by "in the light of"? You know, this is related to the question of Professor Ringor. No? In the light of. So that question is: do you consider the educational system of East Timor inferior to John Dewey's philosophy of education? Not necessarily, because you said "in the light of." Okay?
Okay, thank you, Father.
So that because you did not define your terms, that is the problem. Okay. Well, probably Dr. Chong is listening, no? So he knows this very well as
Yes, yes.
part of the thesis. And then the findings you have in pages 64 to 66. Okay. Uh, Usually, or normally, the findings present the questions, huh? The questions, uh, the sub-questions, no? After or within your statement of the problem. Okay?
Okay, Father.
You should present your findings in this way, no? First question, answer. Second question, answer. Third question, answer. Because you did not do this, you did not answer question number 3.
Thank you, Father.
Now, on the evaluation of the education system, school curriculum, as you point out in your thesis, according to John Dewey, includes curriculum development, curriculum design, and curriculum implementation. Pages 39 to 42. And this is only about school curriculum. Huh? So, you have evaluated only the implementation of the curriculum, the teaching style of the teachers. Even you examine your chart, the chart that you presented here, all those that are found in the chart have to do with the implementation.
Thank
Well,
you.
there is something there about the goal, but very, very little. Why? You did not think of, because you said evaluating the education system.
This
So
is
why is there, how do you explain this gap? You have not evaluated the curriculum development, have you? You did not evaluate the curriculum design of East Timor's strategic development plan, which these are parts of the educational system. So why? What happened in the writing of your thesis?
actually this is what we always think, right, Father? Because sometimes we are aware of that, but sometimes we are lacking of some mind that how can we come up with the perfect. Because this is why I'm here to panelists will guide me toward that.
Yeah, so I think you have to change the title, no? Because you say evaluation of the education system, you are expected to evaluate the whole education system. So you can talk with your advisor to focus more your evaluation, probably on the teaching process or methodology, the pedagogy. Pedagogy means the way teachers teach.
All right.
This is actually the focus of your thesis. You talk it over with Professor Chong because he knows that very well. So you have not evaluated at all the most important parts of the education system. The role of the teacher, okay, you say something about it, but you don't evaluate it according to the criteria of John Dewey. No? And you should also have evaluated the strategic development plan's proposed pedagogy or methodology using John Dewey's inquiry method.
All right.
Huh? That is very important if you really want to make your thesis substantial, no?
Thank you very much.
What do you think?
Thank you, Father.
Okay, so I think you really have to do still a lot of work in your thesis, I think. But Professor Chong can help you a lot, no?
Alright.
Just focus it so that you will not revise totally your thesis, but you use your thesis, but focus it, no? Just change the title, you incorporate, the suggestions and the critical observations you have heard during this defense.
All right, Father.
Okay. Professor Ringo, do you want to say something more?
Yeah, I think Father has a valid point. You need to have a focus on which is which, okay? And by zero in there, you would find a dot to connect with. Because otherwise, if you are just cheating side by side, whatever flows into your mind, there will be no clear direction as to what you are trying to do. Okay, but I really appreciate that you are involving this one for the benefit of your countrymen. And I hope this would really help you in your ministry when you come back in there. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
So, again, another suggestion is to make a good review of the literature so that you can actually justify the significance of your work. And I believe this is significant because there are few scholars coming from the western side of the country who will, the western side of the world, to actually relate or at least help these people develop their educational system. Okay? But still, I appreciate how you try to complement the two. It is just that you have to be critical about the drawbacks, and you have to admit that in your work, that even though you are saying something positive about Dewey, there are still limitations about his work,
Thank
and
sir.
you are aware of that. You are recognizing that. However, you are taking the positive sides, okay? Because it should be clear in your work. Otherwise, it will just be again a work that is trying to say something in a fanatical way, that the educational theory of Dewey is something the best and the brightest among the rest. Okay, if you don't look at its drawbacks and criticisms.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
so that will make your work better. So that's all for me, and I hope you make your methodology better. Okay, I think there must be consistency and some revisions as well.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Professor Abraham, are you there?
I'm here. Give me a minute.
Can you say something? Would you like to say something?
Yes, Father, just a minute. I'm just open the cam.
Yeah. It's nice to see you.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes,
Yeah, please say something.
yes, thank you. So again, good morning. Thank you to all the panelists and everybody, especially the comments being given by Professor Linda and of course Father Sami and of course Father Gilbert is also there and everybody. Without going into lengthy comments, I just want to say the points being raised are very much well taken. And part of what we are going to develop is those things that we're not able to put in. I think because some insight came after the paper had been submitted. So when we came to patch up certain things, we're not able to because the paper had already been submitted. But all the same, I just want to speak about, you spoke about the title itself. I already pointed out to say actually the title should not be about evaluating the educational system. Otherwise, it becomes so big. What we can focus on, just like what Father Sami said, is we can focus on educational practice in certain aspects of process. Because with that is something that we can do something about it. Because the system will always be there and it will be difficult to make some proposals. We spoke about that, so we work on that. Then the second point I want to highlight also comes from Professor Ling about the. Are we saying that John Dewey is much more or superior compared to what's happened there? Actually, not, because the fact that he chose John Dewey to be his to be the subject of his thesis, we wanted just to use him as one of the models that can reflect that kind of education practice that we would like to see here and there. And because of that, so we use that as a way for the best practices taking place in different places. But it has to be adaptable to the local context of East Timor. That is what we wanted to do. But of course, because of the difficulty of language and all that, the time, those things were not able to put together. But we'll look into that as well. Then lastly, you were asking about the connection between chapter 4. It's the same thing. It's not supposed to be a critique of educational system of East Timor in chapter 4. It's supposed to be a kind of reappropriating something to do with that. How do we situate, therefore, the current practice of East Timor to align it to best practices so that the graduates that are going to be produced can be marketable anywhere in the world. Actually, that's the focus. But again, we'll look into those and see what we can do. So thank you so much for the credible insights and comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abraham. It's really nice to see and hear from you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so anyway, you followed very well the observations of the panel. No?
Yes.
So you will be focusing.
I'm following up.
So probably you will really have to change the title, no? To focus it.
For sure, Father. Yes, we
Yeah.
will.
And then I think the definition of terms are very important, no? So that the evaluation will be properly defined. It's a kind of working definition, right?
Yes,
It's a working
sir.
definition. And then, as you said, though, the intention of the thesis is kind of to see what we can learn from John Dewey's
Yes.
method of,
Yes.
educational method and all that. And then the focus is more on the pedagogy, the process, the education process.
Yes,
Okay.
Father. Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. Veldim, your last words.
Thank you very much, fathers, sirs, and for my mentor as well, especially for my advisor, because he helped me a lot through these works, and I try my best. And also, thank you very much, everyone. God bless you. Thank you.
So, thank you and congratulations. No. So, okay, we request you to just leave. This is technical, no?
Yes.
Okay, this is a way of doing things. No. So please leave the room for a while, just to observe the protocol, and then we will talk about your thesis. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.